Auto business, as you know, under this new administration, as these tariff and consumer headlines continue to hit the sector. Tesla by far the worst performer, that blue line at the bottom of that chart. Meantime, GM's chief Mary Barra reportedly meeting with the president this week to discuss the automaker's, quote, investment plans, with Trump telling reporters late yesterday, quote, they want to invest $60 billion. Waiting for specifics on that. Shares, meantime, of GM are down 10% on the year.
Tesla also alerting the Trump administration about the impact of tariffs. Shares on pace for another week in the red, adding to those historic declines over the prior few months.
Into the US. The European Union says it is retaliating with tariffs on 26 billion euros worth of US goods. Trump's tariffs are another blow to the
government of Canada, following a dollar-for-dollar approach, will be imposing, as of 12:01 a.m. tomorrow, March 13th, 2025, 25% reciprocal tariffs on an additional $29.8 billion of imports from the United States. This includes steel products worth $12.6 billion and aluminum products worth $3 billion, as well as additional imported U.S. goods worth $14.2 billion for a total of $29.8 billion.
Close to 10% of vehicles on the road in the U.S. were made in Canada, but they're not at all completely Canadian products. The industry is so integrated between this country and our neighbors to the south that before a vehicle is assembled, the parts are estimated to have crossed the border up to 8 times. And it's not new. This plant in Windsor, Ontario, has been making cars since 1928.
The trade that we have between Canada and the United States is fair trade. It's fair, free trade. We aren't the source of the angst.
I'd rather have it done in Detroit.
Well, Donald Trump says he wants the automobile industry moved back to the U.S. from Canada and Mexico. He's promised tariffs starting February 1st.
If he does that in automotive.
Flavio Volpe is with Canada's Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association. His members, he says, work on slim margins. For many, a 5% tariff would wipe out profits, 10% would start putting companies out of business, 25% would mean there's no reason to keep going.
We had a problem with Ontario and they dropped that when I let them know what we were going to be doing. They dropped it immediately, so I'm glad, because electricity, you shouldn't be playing with electricity. It affects people's lives. Actually their life. I mean, it can affect, depending on weather, it can affect their life. So we can't do that. And it doesn't make sense that our country allows electricity to be made in another country and sold into us. Who did that deal for the United States?
Good morning. The trade relations between the European Union and the United States are the biggest in the world. They have brought prosperity and security to millions of people, and trade has created millions of good jobs on both sides of the Atlantic. As of this morning, the United States is applying a 25% tariff on imports of steel and aluminum. We deeply regret this measure. Tariffs are taxes. They are bad for business and worse for consumers. They are disrupting supply chains. They bring uncertainty for the economy. Jobs are at stake, prices up. Nobody needs that on both sides, neither in the European Union nor in the United States. The European Union must act to protect consumers and business. The countermeasures we take today are strong but proportionate. As the United States are applying tariffs worth $28 billion, we are responding with countermeasures worth 26 billion euros. This matches the economic scope of the tariffs of the United States.
Europe just launched a devastating $26 billion economic missile aimed directly at America's auto industry. These tariffs are precision strikes targeting Trump's political base in key battleground states, a calculated move that threatens the political landscape. What started as a trade dispute has morphed into full-blown economic warfare, threatening over 1 million American jobs. Ford, GM, and Tesla stocks are already tumbling as Wall Street realizes this is just the first wave. Another $19.6 billion in tariffs is locked and loaded for April, poised to deliver an even deeper blow. Europe's $26 billion economic weapon. Europe just unleashed its most devastating economic weapon against America, and it's not what anyone expected. While the media focuses on the headline numbers, they're missing the truly diabolical strategy at play. The European Union has engineered a surgical economic strike targeting Trump's most crucial political strongholds. What makes this different from typical trade disputes is the ruthless precision. European strategists have meticulously mapped out Republican-led states and designed tariffs to inflict maximum political damage before the November election. This is economic warfare with a political bullseye. The European Commission wasted absolutely no time responding to Trump's auto tariffs. President Ursula von der Leyen made it crystal clear that Europe is fully prepared to defend its economic interests. Diplomatic code for "we will hit back harder than you can imagine." Her statement signals that Europe won't be pushed around anymore. The targeted products reveal the brilliant calculation. Soybeans from Louisiana, where local farmers face devastating export barriers, all in the home state of House Speaker Mike Johnson. Beef and poultry from Nebraska and Kansas, agricultural products from Alabama, Georgia, and Virginia. These are precision strikes at Republican power centers. We're witnessing history repeat itself, but with dramatically higher stakes. During Trump's first term, Europe targeted Harley-Davidson, Bourbon, and Levi's jeans. But that was merely a warm-up compared to today's sophisticated assault. The EU is upping the ante by reintroducing trade restrictions that were suspended under Biden, kicking in on April 1st. The truly shocking part that financial analysts are just beginning to grasp: this is only the first wave. Europe has another devastating $19.6 billion in tariffs locked and loaded for April 13th. This 1-2 punch has created absolute chaos on Wall Street. Trump imposed tariffs to protect American jobs, but Europe's counterstrike threatens to eliminate more American jobs than Trump's policy could ever save. The targeting of politically sensitive states represents a level of strategic economic warfare we haven't seen in modern times. The real question keeping economists up at night: who's going to feel the pain first? Let's look at how America's biggest automakers are already suffering. Quick pause. If you're enjoying this video, we'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to the channel. Did you know over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing? Subscribing is free, and it helps us create more content you love. So, go ahead and hit that button. It only takes a second. Thanks so much, and now, back to the video. Detroit's nightmare: American auto giants under siege. American automakers are watching in horror as Europe's economic counterstrike hits them where it hurts most: their intricate global supply chains. Detroit's manufacturing giants are staring into an abyss that threatens their very survival. The timing is catastrophic. Ford, GM, and Tesla stocks have plummeted as investors flee the financial bloodbath. Most Americans don't realize these iconic companies depend completely on specialized European components that can't be replaced overnight. Your American-made Ford F-150 contains precision German transmissions and critical Italian parts. Without these components, production lines across Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania will grind to a halt, like engines suddenly stripped of their gears. These battleground territories decide presidential elections. I've worked at the Dearborn plant for 22 years, says Mike Harmon, a Ford assembly worker. We're all terrified. If these European parts stop coming, we're done. My whole neighborhood depends on these jobs. Ford's predicament is particularly dire. Their European operations pulled in $25 billion last year, but that revenue stream faces a 25% tariff wall. Executives are panicking, forced to choose between absorbing devastating costs or passing them to struggling American consumers. Tesla faces even deeper trouble. Elon Musk's vehicles rely heavily on European semiconductors and battery components, the technological heart of every Tesla. With these components suddenly 25% more expensive, Tesla's profit margins are evaporating. The nightmare is already unfolding. Vehicle prices are about to skyrocket while consumers cancel orders as loan calculations suddenly don't add up. This economic assault precisely targets America's manufacturing heartland, where communities will be devastated if auto plants start cutting shifts. European dealerships are already canceling orders for American vehicles by the thousands. Each cancellation represents lost jobs and shuttered production lines back in the United States. Industry analysts predict significant layoffs if these tariffs remain. With over 1 million American auto workers facing an uncertain future, the human cost is becoming painfully clear. Small Midwest towns dependent on a single plant are holding their breath, wondering if they'll be the next casualties. Wall Street's panic button, the economic ripple effect. Those small Midwest towns might be the first victims, but Wall Street's reaction tells us something terrifying about what's really happening. Major financial institutions are predicting potential stock crashes that could destroy your retirement savings if this trade war spirals out of control. The auto industry was the first domino to fall in what's becoming an economic chain reaction that absolutely nobody saw coming. Wall Street trading floors are in absolute chaos. Investors are frantically dumping stocks across multiple sectors as the reality sinks in. This trade war has triggered a financial contagion that's spreading through the market like wildfire, shocking even the most hardened market veterans. The situation is so dire that financial institutions are warning clients about the potential for a full-blown recession. These aren't fringe analysts or doom mongers. These are mainstream economic experts sounding the alarm that both the US and Europe could be pushed into economic downturns if this escalates further. Auto industry stocks have already crashed 5 to 12% since the tariff announcement, losses comparable to early market signals from previous economic crises. But analysts project further crashes of up to 20% across multiple sectors if no resolution is reached quickly, signaling the beginning of a potential market meltdown. America's tech giants are watching their European partnerships disintegrate. Intel, Nvidia, and Qualcomm have spent decades building intricate supply chains with European manufacturers, partnerships now hanging by a thread as both sides prepare for the worst. But the repercussions extend far beyond tech. American energy companies stand to lose billions in European gas exports as countries like Germany secretly negotiate with Qatar and Australia instead. This betrayal by longtime energy partners could devastate America's booming LNG industry almost overnight. The agricultural sector is getting hammered too. Nebraska, Iowa, and Kansas farmers who depend on European markets are seeing their livelihood threatened as agricultural stocks plummet. Imagine working your entire life to build a farm, only to watch it all fall apart because of a political trade war you never asked for. What's truly alarming is that even Trump's closest allies are privately expressing serious concerns. Behind closed doors, they're admitting this trade strategy could backfire catastrophically, destroying far more American jobs than it could ever protect. David versus Goliath reversed, Europe's new economic warfare. Market meltdowns are just the beginning. What's happening behind closed doors in Brussels will send shivers down America's economic spine. Europe isn't just fighting back, they're completely flipping the script by strengthening ties with China while systematically dismantling America's trade advantages. The blueprint they're following could permanently cripple US economic dominance in ways nobody saw coming. Remember when Europe begged America for economic protection? Those days are gone. Europe has transformed from desperate trade partner to calculated aggressor, executing precision economic warfare that Pentagon strategists would envy. European leaders have developed a sophisticated strategy that strikes at America's core vulnerabilities. They're playing chess while Washington plays checkers, advancing their economic pawns into American markets, positioning their bishop-like regulations to corner US businesses, and using their queen, China partnerships, to dominate the trade board. While Washington scrambles with basic defensive moves, Brussels is setting up checkmate scenarios 5 moves ahead. The most devastating part? Europe is courting China as their primary trade partner. European businesses are already signing massive deals with Chinese suppliers. This represents a complete reversal from decades of transatlantic trade dominance, with Chinese manufacturers now filling shelves that once displayed American products, a nightmare scenario for American economic power. Europe's assault extends beyond redirecting trade. They're planning tighter environmental regulations specifically targeting energy imports. A direct hit to American fossil fuel companies pumping billions in natural gas to European markets. Europe is planting seeds for an economic landscape where American fossil fuels will find no fertile ground. The renewable revolution provides another weapon. European leaders are investing heavily in green technology to permanently reduce dependence on American energy exports. This reshapes entire economic relationships for a generation. The diplomatic consequences are severe. EU Trade Commissioner Maros Sefcovic delivered a blunt message revealing Europe's newfound confidence. Negotiations can only happen if the US is serious about finding a compromise, adding pointedly that you need both hands to clap. This isn't the language of a desperate partner. It's the ultimatum of an economic equal. Conclusion. The economic showdown between the US and EU has suddenly placed Canada in a precarious position. As we've seen with earlier trade tensions, our nation could become collateral damage in this escalating war. Canadian officials are sounding the alarm. What makes this situation terrifying for Canadians? Our economy is deeply intertwined with both warring parties. Imagine the shockwaves felt across your community as supply chains unravel. Our auto industry, which relies heavily on cross-border trade, could face catastrophic disruption if these economic giants continue their battle. Global trade experts now warn that this extended conflict could trigger a worldwide economic downturn that would leave no country untouched. The interconnected nature of modern commerce means Canada can't simply hide from this storm. Will our nation emerge unscathed, or are we destined to be caught in the crossfire of this decade's most dangerous economic conflict?